Well, it finally happened. I ran out of money. It's been over a year now since I made my last video talking about Transformers toys, which I am still amazed was received as well as it was, considering it's literally like 15 minutes of me losing my mind. But upon rewatching that video, I realized it's actually a lot more complainy than I otherwise would have liked. And so I thought it might be nice to do a follow-up that's a bit more positive this time. And there is no better time for me to gush about these things than right now with how incredible the toys have been this year. So I'll just say some nice things while also still complaining about it. Okay, so a lot has happened in a year since the first video, both in the toy scene and for my bank account. So just for starters, I'll run you through a list of some of the guys I actually managed to track down that I said I was chasing last year through a series of some very poor financial choices. I literally didn't accomplish anything in an entire year, but you bet I finally tracked down all the protector bots. My mum is so proud of me. I got me some core class dudes who are surprisingly a lot better than I thought they would be for their size. I hear that one from girls a lot. And another Titan with the Arc who now has made me want to buy the rest of them, and good fucking luck with that, buddy. I did get the Sideswipe and Mirage Kingdom 2-packs, but then actually ended up keeping the Grimlock and Skywarp because they're kind of awesome. Some very, very nice person on Facebook sold me a Siege Skywarp who still feels like a hallucination whenever I walk in the room I keep him in. I ended up with a couple of Takara Legends thanks to some lucky deals on Marketplace, and I can now personally confirm that they are considerably better than the American counterparts, and we are all being ripped off. My hunt for all of the Earthrise exclusives is nearly over. I'd somehow managed to find 3 out of the 5 other Seekers, Thundercracker and Skywarp through Amazon, and Thrust through one very poorly thought out night on eBay. But even after a year of searching, I still cannot find anyone selling Ramjet and Dirge for anything less than like $400, and I'm becoming convinced they don't even really exist. I did get Earthrise Ratchet after he randomly appeared on Amazon for way too much money, but he kind of sucks. Honestly, don't even bother going after this one. Easily has to be the most boring $90 I've ever spent. And finally, Runabout, who, yes, to my surprise, is exactly the same as Runamuck, but black and red, and definitely not at all worth 3 times the retail price. And please, just to be clear, I'm not telling you all of this to brag, but just to show you how empty my life has become. But none of that even matters now, because the War for Cybertron trilogy that started in 2018 is finally over, and we now have its brand new successor, which is Transformers Legacy. It's unclear so far if Legacy is just going to be a 1-year thing or if it's going to go on for longer, but oh my god, I hope it is here to stay. Not that the War for Cybertron series wasn't already amazing and also Sunstreaker, but even only 2 waves in, I genuinely think Legacy would have to be my favorite Transformers toy line ever. I mean, anything that has the confidence to open with skids and an Insecticon is my kind of toy line. Legacy is keeping in with the same general engineering from the previous line, so everything fits in together really nicely, but now they're applying it to more difficult things like a combiner team where somehow the individual dudes look good on their own and in vehicle mode and also when they're combined. I guess Legacy's Menacer is a bit different to how they've done combiners before in that it adheres a bit more to the 80s cartoon where unlike other combiners, Menacer is just kind of wearing the other Stunticons instead of them properly forming the limbs. But if it means the toys can be this good, then I don't care. Hasbro, look, you can try and play hard to get on your Instagram and pretend these things are for parents, but I can't imagine a 7-year-old is going to be particularly fussed as to whether Blitzwing's tank mode is accurate to season 2 of the 1985 cartoon. They don't have to make them this good, but they do it for us. And it is especially admirable how much effort they put into these things when the cartoon it's based off of had animators that probably put in about 5 seconds. And as much as I love me some Autobots, I think Legacy is actually the first line I can think of in a while that has a higher ratio of cons to bots, which is amazing to see, especially given that Kingdom had like, what, 3? I fucking love the Insecticons, and to see even just one of them finally get a deluxe-sized toy after like 50 years of baby ones is incredible. And Motormaster is super good and a huge improvement over the previous Brick, and Blitzwing. Oh my god. I know some people had issues with his tank and jet mode looking like that, but at least in terms of his robot mode, Legacy has been absolutely knocking it out of the park with every single figure. So Hasbro, whenever you want to send me free figures, just let me know. My address is PO Box 405. The quality increase has unfortunately come with quite a price hike though. For those who remember when I talked about size classes from last year, Deluxes go for almost as much as the next size class now at like $36 each, and Voyagers go for like $50 to $55, which is like $10 more. Leaders cost close to $100 now, which is why when they chuck shit in feeling like this with them, it becomes kind of annoying. Personally, I'm still happy to keep buying the figures, especially when they've been this good, but I think some people are now having issues with choosing between the new G-Axis and having to eat for the week. Legacy does have a gimmick, but it's super inoffensive where it's just an extra Energon weapon. It doesn't even replace their regular accessory most of the time. They just include it there as a bonus, which is awesome. The most annoying it's been is when they just straight up made Blaster's cassette bot eject out of clear plastic. This dude is gonna break any day now. They're mixing in more obscure characters with the classic lineup from G1 as well this time. Like, they're giving us updated pretenders with core class, which is such a cool idea. And headlining Wave 3 are deluxes of Point Blank and Crankcase, who are just some random nobodies from way later down the line, which is amazing. Not that I had a problem with the abundance of G1 for the past 3 years, but I know a lot of people did. And Legacy finally steps in to do something about that, because its whole deal is kind of like bringing together all the different interpretations of Transformers across the years into one big toy line, but mostly still just G1, through some sort of vague multiverse story thing they haven't really explained yet. Although the Transformers Prime figures in Wave 1 did cause a bit of a stir, because some people didn't take to them redesigning them to fit in with the G1 aesthetic, which I do kind of understand, but I really like them anyway, so I don't mind. I can't wait to see what happens when they do animated. Hasbro has also been attempting to commit to more environmentally friendly packaging while also selling you Power Rangers NFTs, and one of those attempts has involved removing the plastic windows on boxes, which hilariously has caused some people to go around and steal the heads off of bulkheads. Why? The online-only portion of Legacy Generation Selects has also been killing it, with redecos of the Last Lines dudes in colors that are meant to like homage Transformers' predecessor, Diaclone, that are a much better fit for harder to find figures instead of like fucking Ratchet. And luckily for me, I could care less about Diaclone, so I feel no guilt in skipping these. Mostly. I don't have a problem with buying more than one of the same mold if it's like a different character, but recently they've been doing this thing where they've been doing toy and comic accurate paint jobs of characters they've already done figures of recently, and like, I don't know why I'm complaining, but like now I'm gonna have 2 of them and it's just a whole thing. There's also another extra retail subline that started around Kingdom and is now sort of bled into Legacy that I wanted to talk about too, because it is just the fucking weirdest toy line ever. Nothing about it makes any sense. The buzzworthy Bumblebee line has a concept that seems understandable enough. It's meant to make up for the fact that he only had one toy in the entire War for Cybertron trilogy by making an entire line where he has every single toy. But instead of being one consistent line of similar figures, like, you know, everything else, it's made up of a bunch of different releases from across different toy lines, and sometimes has completely brand new molds, and sometimes they're just re-releases of older guys, most of which are completely different and unrelated characters. One of the newest releases are like slightly new paint jobs of Cliffjumper and Cup from a year ago. Okay, well, sure, they were in the movie with him, so I guess that counts. And then you have Silverstreak, who is almost Bluestreak, and Bluestreak and Bumblebee know each other, I guess. And then Dinobot and Pterosaur, well, I don't know, maybe they saw Bumblebee when the Predacons were on board the Ark that one time in Beast Wars. Oh wait, no they didn't, because they were fucking dead. I'm also now realizing that last year's video was more the world of Transformers toys, but exclusively the mainline and nothing else. I really only follow the chug stuff, which for you non-Transformers fans watching is basically a really funny term for all of these types of figures. So I'm really sorry to like Masterpiece and third-party collectors, because I don't know anything about any of that stuff. How is the Masterpiece line doing this year, by the way? Oh, a Japan-only cape that you can only get if you have bought all 3 $400 toys. Awesome. And even aside from just briefly mentioning the 86 movie subline, which is still being awesome this year, by the way, I didn't even talk about the concurrently running Studio Series, which is a line I've only just started getting into this year, which is really funny given that it was actually what started me buying all of this shit in the first place. The basic gist of this line was to do screen accurate toys of the characters from the Michael Bay Transformers movies that are more detailed and size accurate than the previous figures have been before, which means that this and this are both $30. It's for the most part a very clearly defined goal, but there are only so many characters in these movies, and it's really funny when you have these weird little outliers that makes me think Hasbro is running out of figures to do. It claims that they're meant to be stuff that's screen accurate, but then you get shit like Thundercracker, who at no point has ever been in any of the movies, who is Studio Series number 9, and even more recently Nest Bumblebee, who they just completely made up. I like to think they're doing this just so they don't ever have to make skids and mudflap. Even if it had a bit of a rough start, I've begun to absolutely adore this line, and it's been really fun having a brand new collection to start from the ground up, even if it's meant I now have a whole bunch of other guys that I found are just impossible to get. Why the fuck is it so hard to get an Ironhide? He's one of the main characters from the first movie. God damn it. This line is so good that I even ended up buying all of the Constructicons, and like, Why the fuck do I give a shit about the Constructicons? Most of them aren't even in the freaking movie. These toys have actually been making me really appreciate the designs for the Bayformers movies a lot more. And it's even been making me really want to get into watching them all again. But then I'm probably going to get up to Revenge of the Fallen and then realize that buying all of these was a horrible mistake. Even if everything about the toys themselves has been fantastic recently, the one thing you can count on still being absolute dog shit is the distribution. I have completely given up on buying figures at retail at this point, and I don't know what it's like in other countries at the moment that aren't Australia that may have this even worse or not be a problem at all, looking at you, America and Asia. But the distribution of Legacy and Studio Series as of late, and just everything else as well, just doesn't make any fucking sense. I'm going to assume this is another COVID-related thing, but like, that doesn't mean I still can't laugh about it. Legacy was first shown off to us in late 2021, even though we already knew about it months ago from leaks beforehand, but that's not important. We didn't really have a set time for when it was supposed to come out, but bulkheads and blasters started showing up in Europe by themselves for some reason as early as February. Then the rest for some reason started arriving, I want to say like around April, May in the US, which I was generously reminded about every single day on Twitter. Australia though, being the wonderful country that it is, only just got them in now, like a month ago, in June. Isn't that great? But now, like, Elita 1 from Wave 2 was shown up at JB Hi-Fi relatively early, but without any of the other ones for some fucking reason. Studio Series Sideswipe didn't show up in stores here until fucking April, after appearing in America in September, 6 fucking months ago. The Bumblebee movie wave as well, with Brawn, Ratchet, and Wheeljack came out in the US in February, and still hasn't come out here as far as I know. But Ravage, who was a part of that same wave, did, like, 4 months ago. What the fuck? But then I went today, and now Kmart has RC, who was in the wave after that one, but doesn't have Ironhide, who came with her. What is happening? Although Legacy Wave 2 Motormaster started showing up here super early and nowhere else in time for Big W's toy sales, so, you know, maybe sometimes it's not all bad. You know that Lego Optimus Prime that was announced like a month ago now, right? How Lego made a post teasing it, and then announced it only a few days after, and then it became available to buy online only a couple weeks after that? You know how cool and awesome that is? Well, whenever Hasbro announces something, it's like, well, I hope you enjoy waiting for that shit for the rest of the year. I feel like if you were only waiting and buying the newest releases, then you would be waiting forever, but for me at least, there's a seemingly infinite number of older figures I always want to chase down to keep me busy in the meantime. I don't know what is going on, but now I have even less of a reason to ever go outside. I am sure this can't just be a Transformers only problem, but since it's the only thing I follow, obviously, I don't know if this has been happening to everyone, but one of my friends told me there's a Power Rangers figure that took over a year to release after going up for pre-order, so maybe we don't have it so bad. I would say distribution is really the worst of it at the moment. I mean, there's some other minor stuff with like yellowing plastic people have had with some of the newer guys when their toys are exposed to sunlight for any longer than 5 seconds, which is why I'm showing you a JPEG of Studio Series Ratchet instead of taking him out of my oxygen-deprived underground bunker. But apparently Hasbro's already gone and fixed that, which is awesome. Nothing much has changed in terms of other options either. eBay is still a complete hellhole, but Marketplace at least has still been reasonably kind to me this past year. I've stumbled onto some really good stuff by accident, as well as some more absolute crime scenes that I really wanted to show you guys. Just keep Toy Story logic in mind when you see these, okay? Unfortunately, when it comes to the exclusive situation, well, it's not quite as bad as it was in Earthrise, but it has gotten better and worse in different ways. A good, I want to say like 45% of Legacy looks to be store exclusive in some way. I mentioned Gen Selects already, which is online only, but those generally aren't too hard to find, and this year especially, they seem to be sort of not focusing on it as much. And then Walmart or Target here has these 3 random Beast Wars guys, which again, annoying, but not too bad. Walgreens, of course, got another fucking red and white figure, and I still don't understand why a pharmacy is selling toys and not like medicine. Amazon has an entire ass line to itself this time in the form of the Wreckers collection, which are a bunch of redecos of some new, old, and really old figures, which here at least are surprisingly cheap for once. I mean, hey, I'm not complaining. But where I think it's become the biggest problem is with this new Velocitron Speedia 500 collection. It's called that because that's how many they've made in total. This is Legacy's version of the Netflix subline that War for Cybertron had, had, and for those who remember, was the one with the Bumblebee and Soundwave figures that could only be found at specific stores that everybody wanted, but nobody could ever find because the only people that ever seemed to get a hold of them were assholes.
What the fuck?
Bumblebee goes for like $80 average now, and Soundwave an entire fucking housing loan. I was lucky enough to end up getting both of these at some point for retail cost, but now this new line has taken it one step further because where it's mostly just really cool looking retools of older figures, it now also has 2 entirely brand new molds with overriding Cosmos that now won't be available anywhere else, which feels even worse given that Soundwave and Bumblebee were at least made from pre-existing toys and that was bad enough. I'm guessing maybe their exclusivity is what funded them in the first place, so I suppose this is better than having them not exist at all, but I'm just a bit worried that if they're going to be as understocked as Soundwave and Bumblebee were, then it's basically going to be the whole thing all over again. Good luck out there, fellas. But at least they're not breaking teams up anymore, so they get a gold star from me. Fortunately now I have a secret weapon in the form of a wonderful local group, the Transformers Collectors Club of Australia, who has been pretty much saving my ass now with figures for just over a year now. They help me get new toys in on time and sometimes even early by ordering them in from overseas, if you've ever spotted them in the background of videos, that otherwise wouldn't come to Australia for the next 5 fucking years. The TCCA does a lot of stuff on Facebook, so I definitely recommend go and check them out if you want. Australians only though, sorry, but I'm sure other countries might have their own equivalent. But yeah, mainly just wanted to say thanks. This hobby will be a lot more frustrating without them. Love you guys. We cannot talk about the current scene of Transformers toys without bringing up the absolute state of leaks and stolen toys, where it's come to the point where actually finding out about something from Hasbro first has become like an event. I don't know how they do it, but months before Hasbro even mentions them, somehow we always end up with a list of names from some website that they got from hacking into Target's system or some shit that contains the releases of every line for like the following year. So now whenever Hasbro announces something on Twitter, I'm just sitting there with a checklist of the leaks, knowing that we already knew about that shit like 6 months ago. That is just for product listings though, but what they actually look like tends to get leaked about 5 seconds after they get made. Sometimes in very rare occasions, they do actually get revealed by the people that made them before someone steals them from the factory, but as I said, that's like a surprise at this point. Because there are now a lot of toy reviewers on YouTube, I'm not going to name any names, but I'm pretty sure some of you know who I'm talking about, who just somehow managed to get a hold of toys way before they're meant to come out, or sometimes even before they're even officially announced, and just never explain how for some reason. I mean, they sure aren't review samples from Hasbro, because if they were, they would have said something about it by now. But I'm pretty sure we all know where they're coming from. This has obviously pissed a lot of people off, but here's my hot take. I don't care. You can feel about this how you want in terms of the legality of it, but look, if Hasbro themselves don't mind, which they obviously do not, then at the very worst we get to see new toys a lot earlier than we otherwise would. The only problem I have with it personally is that it now makes the YouTube scene a lot more difficult for other reviewers who only buy their toys legally. It just means that unfortunately they have to work a lot harder to stand out. Like one of the best reviewers on YouTube right now, Toys R Us, who is this amazing and very buff man who sits on his floor and reviews toys and is honestly just living his best life. Absolute legend. Please go give him some love. And also, on the flip side, Hasbro's YouTube channel has started doing these live streams every so often where they get the designers to actually show off the new toys and talk about the production behind them and all that. And it's actually really awesome. It might seem like a small thing, but actually getting to hear from the guys that make these things and all of the decisions and work they put into it is actually really cool, even though everyone in the live chat is always spamming some random bullshit. Stay classy, Transformers fans. Anyway, that's pretty much everything of note that's happened in a year, I think. I genuinely cannot wait to see the rest of Legacy in like 2 days when the rest of Hasbro's internal servers get leaked. But yeah, I think aside from prices and distribution and exclusives and quality control and yellowing and packaging, I think things are looking pretty good at the moment. Now, if only I could afford it.